All right. So this is what we have for today's lesson. Okay. As you can see, I think I've done a good job presentation-wise. Yeah. Right. So today we are particularly interested in political, ideological policy issues affecting children and childhood. It's still under the broad topic, the context of childhood. Okay? Right. Now these are the key content issues we are going to look at. The first thing we are going to look at are the key terms, right? As I always say, you need to define your key terms. What are your key terms and what is the definition of those key terms? And you need to decide also not just what the definitions are in textbooks. Okay, but we are also going to look at what definitions you want to choose as your working definitions in your piece of work. All right. So we have the key terms, and then we have the political issues. We are also going to look at what political issues are currently affecting children in childhood. And then the third thing that we're going to look at are ideological issues affecting children in childhood. And then last but not least, we also look at policy issues to do with children and childhood. So that's the content outline for today. Let's start with key terms, okay? The first key term is political. Now, what is your understanding of the word political, besides what's on the board?
Legislation. No? Laws?
Boris Boris Johnson. Okay.
Is it democracy?
Democracy, yep, that's political. What else? What comes to mind when you discuss political? All right. So you say democracy, government, political parties, what else?
Running the country?
Running the country. Okay. Right. So what exactly is happening here? What's happening? If you were going to use one word to describe the three aspects you have given, what word would you use?
Law. Government. One of them was government.
Right, so which word would you use to describe all these?
Oh, right.
Political.
Political, okay.
Is it legislation? Policy. Policies. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's just go with what we have on the slide then. Okay. Any activity that's related to the government or connected to the government is considered political, right? And the next key term is ideological. Now, ideology is a set of beliefs. That's what ideology means. It's a set of beliefs, belief systems, ideas, right? So this can either be economic or political. But when we say ideology, you're saying, right, what is it that you believe in relation to politics? What is it that you believe in relation to economics? You can have more than just economics and politics. But for purposes of today's lesson, economic and political suffice. Policy here is defined as principles, rules, guidelines governing conduct within an organization. So when you look at policy, that's the primary difference between policy and legislation. Legislation is national, policy is contextual. Okay? Yeah, that will help. Right. So that's policy. Policy is more to do with your organization. Legislation is to do with the whole country, right? That's the difference. I know different authors will define policy differently. But for purposes of today's lesson, the operational definition is going to be principles, rules, and guidelines governing conduct within an organization. So you have principles, right, or a set of standards that have to be followed when you are within an organization, but you also have rules to follow, telling you what it is that you can do and what it is that you cannot do when you are in a certain context, right? For example, what policies do you have in your settings? You have behavior policy, right? So behavior policy has to do with, okay, rules governing behavior. What are the principles governing behavior within your setting? And you also have the guidelines. What is it that you do as a staff member if certain behavior manifests itself within your setting? For example, if a child is late for school, what does the policy say? The reason why you have policy is so that you have consistency across staff members and across children. You cannot afford to have a setting where there is no policy, because if there's no policy, what it means is anyone can do whatever they like. There are no rules and there is no consistency. So some children may be treated better than others. Why? Because there is no guiding document. But when you have policy, it means all children are treated in a consistent manner. We're not saying they're all treated the same, but there's consistency in how you react or respond to different behaviors, right? It doesn't matter which staff member is dealing with which particular behavior. All staff members will be following the same policy document. It governs how they react to certain issues that may arise within the workplace. So it's good for staff members, because staff members are clear what it is that they need to do under certain circumstances. If this happens, then what should be done? All staff members are clear what their responsibilities are. So it's good for staff members, it's also good for children. And then the last one we are going to consistently define is the term child. Why do you think it is important to give a definition of child? Isn't it obvious what a child is? Is it not obvious?
Not always, because some people say that under the age 16
Yeah.
is a child. It depends, isn't it, on the situation.
Yeah. And, right, in my own family, right, my mother still refers to me as a child. Okay. I'm almost reaching pension age, but still, I am someone's child. Okay. And everyone is someone's child. Am I right? So if we do not define child, we do not know what it means. Yes, it may appear as if it's an obvious term. Why would you want to define it? We have to define it because, probably in a cultural sense, or in a family context, everyone is someone's child. Okay? So, which child, when we say child, what are we referring to? Under the law, in our sector, in our settings, we use this definition of child, which is given in the Children Act 1989. Anyone below the age of 18 is considered a child. That is under the law. Okay? So those are our key terms. Are there any questions?
Do we have to define them within this, or you just do it for the purpose of today?
These are the key terms of today's lesson.
Right, okay, so they've
Yeah.
not got to be defined within the assignment then,
No, within your assignment, you need to choose your key terms. Which ones are the key terms? I will talk you through the key terms of the assignment when I give you the assignment guidance.
Okay.
Okay. So for these are the key terms. Every lesson has its key terms. Every lesson must have a key, at least one key term.
We're using this in the assignment though, so may as well.
Yeah, if you're going to use these words in your assignment,
Yeah.
then you may need to define them. Okay. Right, now to give you background, okay, of what we're going to cover today, we need to understand the Paramount Principle. Now this is found in the Children Act 1989. It's also related to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, 1989. Okay? Now, what does the Paramount Principle say? The Paramount Principle says the welfare of the child is of paramount importance. Like I said, it's in the Children Act 1989. Now, when we discuss what we are going to discuss today, the ideologies, the politics, the policies, we need to remember that all the policies that are in place, the ideology that is affecting children, and the legislation and all the practices have to bear in mind, have to take into consideration the Paramount Principle, i.e., everything that is put in place for children must take into account the Paramount Principle. What it means is the welfare of the child must be at the center of every ideology governing how we work with children. The welfare of the child must also be at the center of every policy that we are going to work with. And the welfare of the child must be at the center of all legislation that we work with, regardless of where we are or who we are working with. As long as you are dealing with children in this country, you must bear in mind the Paramount Principle. I know when it's defined in the law, it's mostly to do with decisions that are arrived at in court. But in practice, we still need to consider children's welfare. What is it that is in the best interest of the child? For example, say a child has committed a crime, right? As long as it is a child that is involved, the most important consideration is not the crime the child has committed. The most important consideration is the welfare of this child. In the first instance, for a child to commit a crime, it's a sign that things are not right in that child's life. And that needs to be found out, right? That needs to be discovered. You need to find out where things have gone wrong. So the first question is not going to be, oh, how significant is the crime this child has committed? The first question is going to be, why has this happened? Is the welfare of this child okay? Obviously, when a child commits a crime, it's a sign something is wrong within the life of that child. It's not just in relation to crimes, it's in relation to everything that has to do with the child. You enroll children into a setting. The first question is about the welfare of the child, right? Will the child be safe in our setting? That's the first question. Even when you are dealing with disciplinary issues relating to children, the first question is always going to be the welfare of the child. You're going to work in a multi-agency context, working with other professionals. At the center of everything that you're going to be doing is about the welfare of the child. It governs everything that we do within our sector. The welfare of the child is of paramount importance. Okay. Now, when we say a child is anyone that is aged below 18, it seems straightforward. But it gives us a problem because the age range is just too big, right? How you're going to deal with a child who's aged 0, who's just been born, is different from how we're going to deal with a child who is 60, who is 80. When we say child, which child do we have in mind? When we say child, say when you come up with legislation, which child are we considering? Are we considering a child who is more on this end, on the 0 end, or more on the 18 end? It makes it difficult, right? Because the age range is just too big. Okay? Because the needs of children, as they grow, as they go through their development, the needs change. Never mind about other factors affecting children's needs. For example, personal issues. It could be health, it could be mentality, it could be cultural, it could be religious. Age in itself also has an impact on what it is that the child needs, right? At 17, we're still calling them child under the law. Of course, people will prefer to call them teenagers. If you call a child who's aged 17 a child, they may take issue with that, okay? But under the law, they are a child. So which child do we have in mind? It is a difficult question because when you come up with children's law, it's covering a wide age range, and that presents issues. We'll also want to discuss this as we go along in today's lesson.
So what age would you say is adolescent then?
I don't know.
From the puberty.
What is adolescent? Well, what age is this?
From puberty, I'd say.
Because the law does not define adolescent, right? What age? Is this the correct spelling? Well, let's just assume it's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
What age?
So puberty.
Yeah, but puberty starts at what age?
No, because that could start at 11, 12. I suppose it depends on the child, doesn't it?
But they're still a child, aren't they?
Yeah. So I would say that adolescence would be from 15 up. And once they start getting ready to leave school and be given more responsibility.
Is it to do with their chronological age, or is it to do with their stage of development? Adolescence. Is it more a developmental issue than it is an age issue? What do you think?
Adolescent
Is it age? Is it
From
stage?
puberty to legal adulthood, it says.
And what does puberty mean?
Different, yeah. So it says adolescence is a transitional stage of physical and psychological development that generally occurs during the period from puberty to legal adulthood. It is usually associated with teenage years, but is physically, logically, or culturally expressions may begin earlier or later.
So it's a stage of development, isn't it? Not age. Okay.
But it's still within the child range, isn't it? Because as soon as they reach
Yes.
adulthood,
Yeah.
they're adults.
Yeah. So, can you see why probably the law has not even attempted to touch that word? Because it's different for different children. But when you have 18, it's specific. Now the problem is, it assumes that all children are developing at the same rate. As you and I know, no two children are the same. Okay? And how about those who are borderline between child and adulthood? One day before their 18th birthday, or let's say 1 minute before their 18th birthday, if you know what time you were born. Okay, right, for practical purposes, one day before they're 18, still a child, but they're more.
How much are they going to change in that 24 hours?
Exactly. But then we have to have a cut-off point somewhere. For legal purposes, they will still be considered a child. Okay? The law will change in 24 hours for them. Right. Okay. Now, here's the dilemma. Okay? When politics considers childhood, when it influences childhood, which childhood exactly is this? What childhood does it have in mind? Is it childhood towards the 0 end or towards the 18 end? What do you think?
What was the question again?
When politicians are debating in Parliament, coming up with policies, is it more a grown-up child or more a very young child? Or are there different sections for different ages and stages?
Depends on the.
Isn't that why they do like EYFS policies,
Excellent.
key stage policies, and,
Excellent. Yep.
and then the higher up they go, key stage 3 policies and all that, split them up that way, high school, middle school.
So you then have statutory frameworks
yeah, for each
Right.
one of them.
drawn from the law.
Yeah.
Well done. You deserve an award, Kim.
Oh me. For its contribution.
Well done. No, that's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely. I am impressed. Well done. You've solved our dilemma. It's done, so we can actually cancel this. Right. Now my worry is this may not right. So this is gone. There's no dilemma here, is there? Okay. Solved by. Oh, come on. Right, let's go back. Oh, it's gone. By Kim. Kim has solved our dilemma. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay. Oh. All right. Now, let's revisit social constructions of childhood. All this is laying the groundwork, it's laying the foundation for our understanding of policies, right? Because when policies are put in place and when ideologies are formed or formulated, right, certain assumptions are made about children. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, although the list is long anyway, right? When children are constructed as needy, right, then we come up with policies and legislation that have to do with meeting children's needs, right? How best can we meet children's needs? When you see those policies put in place and legislation put in place, what it means is there's an assumption that children have needs, right? We talk about children's needs. And you may refer back to our guy, what's his name? The theorist who talks about needs. You remember him?
Maslow.
Exactly. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay? So when we come up with certain policies, there is a certain construction hidden behind that policy. There's an assumption behind that policy. And that assumption is children have needs. When you talk about children's needs, okay? And you will see the word needs repeated in most government policies, right? How best to meet the children's needs. Why? It's because there's an underlying assumption that children are needy. When they get into a setting, they come with needs, and those needs have to be met. Why? Because we have an assumption, we've constructed them as needy. And then we have a construction of children as vulnerable. Now, what sort of policies do you think are responding to that construction?
Children in need.
Yes. And
Looked after children.
looked after children. You're still talking about vulnerability. What else?
With learning difficulties, SEM.
Yep. There's one obvious one that you are missing. I hope you're going to get there. ECM from Children Act 2004, right? Especially which outcome from ECM addresses vulnerability. Out of the 5 ECN outcomes, which one?
Safe.
Exactly. Well done. Stay safe. So you also have, yeah, that's the policy I was looking for, safeguarding, right? Safeguarding is assuming children are vulnerable. They have a certain vulnerability, and therefore we need safeguarding policy. It's a construction of children as vulnerable, okay? Children as innocent. You remember that, what did we call it? Dolly what? Incapable of.
Oh.
Come on.
Oh, it's when
I'm
the
not source.
How do you spell the word? Come on, help me out. Is it that?
No, I don't think it's there.
Research it. Incapable of committing crime or incapable of evil. We're there. Dolly incapacit. Yeah, that's better. Thank you, Melissa.
Gold star for you. Gold star this row.
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah? Children is innocent. Okay, when you do sociology of crime, the term that you come across is dolly incapacit. It's just an assumption that children are incapable of committing crime until they steal some things from you. Okay? But then you can argue that when they steal, in their minds they don't feel like they're stealing. It's you who is defining what they've done as stealing. To them, probably they haven't formulated an understanding of what stealing looks like. They just took and held themselves. Okay? Because they are too young to consider or to understand what crime is, right? So when you say children are constructed as innocent, do we have policies that have to do with that?
Yeah.
Okay, which ones do you think? All the policies. Right, okay, that's interesting. You know, the harder you're trying to think, the further away your idea goes.
It's the same if you do that on the top of your forehead, it comes back to you, but it doesn't work.
Let me try. I was thinking of, right, you know, in a safeguarding situation where a child comes to report something that has happened to them, we always work with the assumption that children are too innocent to lie to you, right? So we have to believe them, right? That's the assumption we have. Am I right? The children report, you are working on the basic assumption that this child is telling the truth.
Yeah.
So you want to act. Because
However, the natural instinct is to protect yourself.
they are incapable. Oh yeah, natural instinct, yeah. But they are incapable of evil. That's the construction. We're not saying they are purely incapable of evil, right? That's subject for debate. But you are advised to actually accept what the child is saying and believe it. So you may take some action. Of course, you need to investigate it, but you're not going to dismiss what the child is saying. Offhand, okay. And then, contrary to that, you also have children, construction of children as evil. Born evil.
I have heard that several times.
What? Remember global perspectives, right? There's the group. Remind me, which culture assumes that whatever children do is because they are just evil? You remember that culture?
Yeah.
There's a random one.
When they are, yeah, that's the random. Yeah, you know, when they are clumsy, they are just mocked for being clumsy.
Yeah.
When they cry for food or for help,
Like you said one day, didn't you? So their parents got that
she was a witch. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a culture. Do you
Bend.
exactly? That's the one. Yeah. So there are certain contexts where children are just considered evil. It's not that they are evil, but it's just an assumption that is there. Okay. Now, you may argue the reason why you have behavior policies because you are working with an assumption that children are likely to misbehave. Right? There was a program on TV called Little Rascals. I don't know if you watched it. Years ago. I think in the 80s, 84, whatever it was. There's a film as well. There was a series called Little Rascal. I remember watching it on black and white TV. That's very, very clear. Yeah. It's just an assumption that they are evil. If we don't have a behavior policy, they are going to run this place amok. So what we do is come up with a behavior policy. Why? Because the children are evil. Yeah, you wouldn't have. You know, there's a saying that the law is for those who break it, right?
Something must have happened for a law to be put into place to start with.
Exactly, yeah. So you have these two assumptions which are contradicting each other. And then there's an assumption that children are ignorant. Okay? That's why you have schools. Right? If you thought no one is ignorant, you wouldn't build schools, would you? The very reason why, the reason why we have schools is because we want to treat the disease called ignorance. It's a disease, requires treatment. What's the treatment? It's education.
In my day, you got it beaten out of you.
Yeah, in my day too. Right. So you have your education policies and so on and so forth. What are you doing there? You're assuming that unless education intervenes, people are going to remain ignorant. And then you have this assumption that children are apolitical. What does that mean?
They have no political view.
They have no, they're incapable of forming or formulating a political view. Is that right?
Well, that girl from whatever country, Greta, what's her name?
Oh yeah.
Is very opinionated.
She's got some ideology, doesn't she? We are going to be talking about it at some point.
Yeah, but if you look into it, our mother and father are politicians and really for it.
Oh,
I don't think it's I don't think it's their view. I think it's
It's been
their
put on
parents.
her.
Yeah, they knew that. They want a young girl to stand for it. If you look back, I think they will come on into it.
And yeah.
Conspiracies.
Yeah.
Jason is not in agreement. Yeah. So when we say children, that it goes back to the first question we had. Which child are we talking about is apolitical because it's a huge age range. If you're talking about 0, 1, 2, 3 years, maybe. But when you get to 16, 17, 18, maybe they have political views, right? Now, there is a policy which says you should not politicize children. It's just an unwritten rule that children should not be politicized. Okay? And recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a news item criticizing political parties for advertising on platforms where children are. Right? Why? Because children should remain apolitical.
But then
Right.
they make that switch at 18 and then they have to.
And suddenly, yes,
because
it's
they're what's
permissible. Yeah. And then they start voting things you would expect them to vote.
See, they say that, but on Sky News, there's a programme, I can't remember what it's called now, every weekend, and it's about a group of teenagers who do just that. They talk about the different events, the different political views.
I've watched
I
that.
can't remember what it's called. FYI.
Exactly, that's the one.
It's really good. And
It
I think
is.
it is a good idea because they're sharing their opinion. But a lot of it is on politics.
It's political, isn't it? Which child does not know our dearest Donald Trump? Right? Once you know Donald Trump, you know politics, right? Which child does not know Brexit? Once you know Brexit, you know politics. Or is Brexit a political issue? Or is it just an economic and social issue? Or an ideological issue? Right? You can argue either way. It is an ideology, right? It's based or predicated on an ideology, a certain set of beliefs, right? That we want our independence, we want control, and so on and so forth, a sovereign nation, right? But are children not exposed to politics? I'll leave that to you to decide. But there's a general assumption that children should be apolitical if they are not already apolitical. Right. Now, there is another thing that another author says, right? Childhood is a temporary status, right? You do not remain a child forever. Never mind, I can't remember, what musician was that who sang, forever young, I wanna be forever young. I prefer the one that, is it Professor Green and Jay-Z did? I think that one is better because it's a bit of rap and more exciting. But I don't even know about these guys. Like, regardless of what people feel, you know, people want to be young forever, right? Childhood is not a permanent station, right? 0 to 17 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. That's it. Your childhood is gone, okay? The biggest portion of your life, you live it as an adult. You're lucky to survive the aviva of life. Okay. So, with that assumption, people are thinking, right, we use childhood as preparation for adulthood. So childhood is constructed as temporary. And you know, when you're dealing with things that are temporary, there is a different attitude to when you're dealing with things that are permanent. Okay? Do we treat children from that perspective, that they are only children for a few years and then they become adults? Is that why we consider children as trainee adults? Preparing them for adulthood, to the point that we do not worry about their present. We are always saying, right, you're doing this for your future. It's always future oriented, always futuristic. People are thinking, right, do this for your future. Read for your future. And the question is, when are they going to live now for now?
I don't think anybody lives now for now, do they? We're here
Good
for our
observation.
future.
Is it for the future? That's another question I'm asking nowadays. What's the purpose of education? When you've graduated, so what?
You spend your life paying off the debt.
I can rub it in my sister's face.
We all have our.
I hope that at some point you will be learning for the sake of knowing.
Yeah, that's it.
That when you reach that stage, you think, right, then we can say you're educated. Okay. I know at the moment we do it for our assignments, but there will come a time when you buy books because you just want to learn. You read stuff and you try and understand. One question I'm asking now in my other work I'm doing, not work as in employment, but work is in academic work, is what exactly is the purpose of education? Why do you put students through hours and hours and hours of lectures? What's the end goal?
It's to live, survive. You have
Survive.
to get a job. To get a job, you need to have education.
Okay. That's one part. But the another part is probably developing a fully functioning human being. There's a concept called fully functioning person. It's Carl Rogers. Anyway, right? But do you consider childhood as temporary, or you just put your all? in children? Right? Is it temperate? Or is it something that you want to actually invest more on or in? When you're taking care of children in your settings, are you saying, oh, they're just children for a while and soon they're adults?
Don't think like that when you're working.
When you're working with children, you don't think like that?
Children's.
Yeah.
There'll always be children, won't there?
Yeah.
But that child at some point, yeah, he or she will come up.
Okay.
But for children of your own, you then think is only temporary, they will grow up, you want to give them the best, don't you?
Yeah.
That's why, you want them to do well.
And then we have this construction here, right? Children as members, okay? When you are helping children develop, when you are helping them learn, you want them to be a part of a group, don't you? You're not just developing this child for their own sake, but you're also developing this child in the context of the community in which they live, right? Now, every child is going to be a member of a community or is a member of a community, right? Now, that's a collectivist view. When we are helping this child, we are helping them become probably a good member, a model, a role model of some sort, a good member of their community, a good citizen, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Developing a child who is self-centered, right? So they learn to live well with others, they learn to follow rules, they learn to share. All that is developing an ethos of membership or citizenship. Now, the flip side is you're also considering them individuals. No two children are the same. Yes, they are part of a collective, but they are also still individuals. What is it that is individual to them, that matters to them, and you want to develop them as well and acknowledge them as they develop their self-identity, self-concept, a sense of self, a sense of who they are, so they know they matter. Every child matters, that's where it comes from, right? Because they're looking at the individual. So you cannot just look at them as members of a community, you also want to look at them as individuals. Neither can you just look at them as individuals, you also want to look at them as members, because they do not live in a vacuum, they live with others, right? And then there's another construction, they are private individuals, right? You want to respect their privacy, okay? That's why schools do not install CCTV in children's toilets, right? That's why those children who participated in that research thought the toilet was the best place in their schools. Why? Because that's where they are not being watched. They can be themselves when they're in that little room. Why? Because they feel their privacy is important to them, right? So what it means is there is non-interference. You don't interfere with children's private matters. That's at least the assumption under the construction of children is private. And then in a sense, they are also public, right? Your child is everyone's child. If something goes wrong in that child's life, everyone must be concerned. That's why you see when we have all these high-profile cases like, Victoria Klimbe, everyone shows concern. That's the public part of childhood, right? Safeguarding is the public part of childhood. You want to safeguard children. It's everyone's responsibility. Don't just leave it to parents, right? Because parents on their own cannot completely keep their child safe, because that child will go onto the street, they must be safe. That child will go into the shop, they must be safe. They'll go into a nursery, they must be safe. So safeguarding calls for intervention when things are not going right. And then there's another construction, children is incompetent. That's why you want to develop skills in those children. Why? Because they are incompetent, they are reckless. If you leave it to them to run their own lives, it's going to be chaos. That's why maybe they're not they're not trusted with voting at a certain age. Otherwise, they will vote the wrong candidate. Okay, who are they likely to vote? They are allowed to vote. Certain decisions are taken in children. Why? Because there's a general assumption that children are incompetent up to a point, right? So you want to develop skills. When they are sufficiently skilled, then you can say, oh, we can trust you with driving, for example. That's why you have an age limit below which you cannot drive a car. Why? Because they're incompetent. And then there's another one, lacking in worldliness. Worldliness is just lacking in your understanding of how the world functions. That's why you have adults trying to guide children's path. Why? Because children do not understand how the world works at a certain age. Okay, so you want to constantly look out for them. So those are the social constructions. I've put many, but surprise, surprise, that's not an exhaustive list. Different cultures will have their different constructions. Okay, and most of these constructions can actually be seen through the kinds of legislation we come up with. You can see how children are being constructed. Okay, any questions? Yeah, all right, Jason.
Feeling organised.
I can see, I'm impressed.
First time ever.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's something to do with me, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, all credit to you. Okay. Now we need to also break down childhood. All right? You break down the child and childhood. It's important as well in your assignment when you talk about current issues affecting children, right? Which aspect of those children's lives are you talking about? When you talk about current issues affecting childhood, which aspects of childhood are those? You need to break down childhood, break down children, so that you discuss in specific terms. If you just say childhood, you will be limited on your specificity. Okay? So which childhood, right? So there are different aspects to what it means to be a child. It may be to do with age. It may be to do with stage of development. The two, although related, are not always the same. Okay, different children develop at different phases and stages. I think the EYFS covers children's development, right? Culture as well affects what it means to be a child. In certain cultures, being a child means you have no voice. In other cultures, being a child means you participate in the affairs of the family. It depends. So culture will have an impact, okay? So you have a cultural child, and then you have a religious child, right? Some children have certain religions. Mostly, those are the religions into which they are born, although they make up their minds when they grow up and decide to go a different way. But religion has an impact as well. So you have the religious child, and then the child's health also is a factor in childhood. When we say childhood, you may be referring to health. Ability is another aspect of what it means to be a child. Different children have different abilities in different things. Okay? Someone once said, all people are geniuses, right? But if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it spends the whole of its life thinking that it is stupid. Right? So,
I've left my glasses in here, have I? Sorry, I've not left a pair of glasses anywhere, have I?
you're being recorded.
Oh, am I? Oh, I'm so sorry. I really am.
If I find them, I'll carry them.
Okay.
Are you
Thank
okay?
you very much. Yeah, no problem.
Can you see though? Do you need them for driving?
I don't think they're there. I don't know where they are. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. ability. We're talking about a fish, asking a fish to climb a tree. Okay? You think it's stupid. Right. So if you ask children to do things they cannot do, and you are aware they are unable to do, those children may be classed as without ability, right? Rather, you have to give children an opportunity to succeed when you are in. Find out what children are good at and give them opportunities to succeed in those things they are good at. If there are things that children are not good at, you want to encourage them, you want to train them. Okay, there's an argument that is currently going on about children being over-tested, right? Testing is not educating. It's not. You educate first before you test. Emphasis should be on educating rather than on testing. Constantly tested, and it feels like torture because it's causing children a lot of stress. All right? But what I'm saying in terms of ability, ability should be in the context of what the child is able to do. Okay? If you ask me to fly a plane, because I haven't had previous training, I won't even move that thing. If I move it, I don't know which direction to take. Okay? But if I have sufficient training, maybe I will be able to fly. I don't know. Then you'll judge me flying. Okay. So it's training that's most important. Okay. But children have within them the potential to do most things you ask them to do, as long as you give them training first. But ability is also important. You need to discover what they are able to do. Ability also defines a child, right? There is a practice in education where children are grouped by ability, am I right? You have your so-called top set. Top set in what? Right? Top set in climbing trees. The fish is going to be in the bottom set. But if it comes to swimming, the fish is going to be in the top set. So when we come up with all these practices, these are, I'm not going to say controversial, but they're questionable practices. Because we are grouping children, some children are being grouped according to criteria which do not suit them. Okay? They say, oh, putting this children in the top set, putting this children in the, it used to be group 1, group 2, group 3. Nowadays we say, oh, let's hide it from children. We just call it blue group, orange group. But you're still grouping children by ability. But the question is ability in what? Okay? And then there are historical factors. What happened previously may have an impact on the child's current, the child's present. Okay? A child who has been abused previously, that has an impact on their present. And understanding historical factors affecting that child's childhood is going to be important. A child who grew up in an environment which is not exactly conducive for development may experience some developmental delays, not because they are incapable, no. It's because they've had what are known as significant factors affecting how they develop. And then you have family factors as well. What kind of family is it? Is it a nuclear family? Is it an extended family? Right? Whether all sorts of families. Is it a big family, a large family? Is it a small family? Is this child coming from a family where they are the only child? Right? All this affects what children turn out to be. And then the child's sex, right? It has an impact as well. Right? Maybe let's talk about gender, how the child views themselves. It's going to be affecting their sense of childness or what it means to be a child. Personality as well. For example, you have certain children who are agreeable, i.e. they agree to everything because they trust you. And certain children will question you before they accept what you have to say, right? And then you have children who are introverted, who want to keep to themselves. They don't socialize that much. And you have extroverted children who socialize. As soon as you put them in a room, they quickly make friends. All that will have an impact on what it means to be a child. And then their individuality, right? What is it that makes them unique, this particular child? Again, that is an impact. We've talked about apolitical already. Now what you're saying is, can you see any connections between the current issues you are going to be writing about with any of these, right? I'm not saying you write about all this. You just select what is relevant to your current issues. Someone's going to ask how many current issues. We'll talk about that later. Okay, are we going to move on?
Yeah.
Right, political issues. Can you see why it was important to discuss and define political, what it means? All right. Now, political issues are plenty. You have what is known as social policy, right? Social policy, at its core, is about what the government plans to do and does to address the needs of those whose needs are not met. Okay? How does the government plan to help those whose needs are not met? So you have your welfare issues and so on and so on. All that is put in place to help and support those sections of our community whose needs are not met. There are so many programs in place for children. You have your, is it 30
30 hours.
30-hour funding, yeah. You have a range, universal credit, you have all sorts of social policy initiatives that the government comes up with to support those who are not so fortunate among us, right? That's a political issue as well, because that's a government initiated decision. So related to that, you have funding decisions. When the government decides what it is it wants to fund, only recently the government started talking about mental health, and they've put aside some money. It's not much, it's not going to help, but at least they've started talking about funding that goes towards supporting children with mental health issues. Why? Because it's a current issue and it's having an impact on children's welfare and well-being. You have things to do with children's health, right? What initiatives are in place to support children's health, or to ensure that children's health is sustained, is supported, right? Or is addressed. You have issues to do with children's education, education policies that are in place. Okay, for example, you have what age can a child go to school? I mean, when does compulsory education age end, right? What age is it? Do you remember?
When it ends.
Yeah,
Now
compulsory
it's
education.
It's
18. Yeah? There's a reason why the government moved from 16 to 18, okay? All those policies are done in order to address children's needs. That's why we talked about the construction of children as ignorant. Maybe you are going to say that will be addressing that issue of ignorance, upskilling of children, and so on. Children's participation in political decisions. Are they involved in political decisions, children, right? What's the government policy regarding children's participation? The referendum, you remember the two referenda were the Scottish independence, then you had the Brexit referendum. What age groups were allowed to participate. Do you remember? Up to what age? Or from what age rather?
18 plus.
Was it 18 or 16?
I thought it was 18 because there was a big uproar about if 16 to 18-year-olds could vote, then it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah. There was an up. Because people argue that at 16, at least children understand life, don't they?
Well, because you can live on your own at 16.
Exactly.
So you can be like supporting yourself.
Yeah, so you want to participate.
Yeah. So if you're living alone, then you should have a choice in the society around you.
Yeah. Those seem to be contradictions, don't they?
Yeah.
At 16 you're allowed to do certain things, but you're not allowed to do others, right? But that's a big issue. May change, right? At what age can children participate in political decisions? That decision not to involve children in political issues is a consciously made decision. And then you have children's participation in society, right? Becoming members of different clubs, youth clubs, and so on. Again, those are decisions which are made by the government. And now you understand, do you know what the YJS is? YJS? Does it stand for?
Young Justice System.
Youth Justice System. Yeah, almost there, that's correct. So the Youth Justice System, you know, when they say, okay, policy has recently shifted from custodial sentences to community-based sentences for children who commit crime. So rather than keep putting them in custody, the government or the Youth Justice System or the Youth Justice Board say, no, we want to actually give children, where possible, you give them what are known as community-based sentences. So you task them with community service,
So is that like to try and rehabilitate them?
rehabilitation, as well as participation in society. If you commit a crime in Manchester, rather than being sent to an institution that is far away from Manchester, you need to actually repay the damage you've done through community service in Manchester. Okay? So, yeah. Participation in society. Now, we're not just saying children who've committed crime, even those who have not committed crime. There's a lot of initiatives, programs that are going on which promote children's participation in society. Some children go to church, it's part of their society, others go to mosques. It's also part of societal involvement. And then children's participation in family. Do they have a voice in family as children?
No.
Why not?
Depends on the family.
Depends on the family.
Yeah.
Okay. So what sort of families allow children to participate? Good. Define good.
Caring family.
Yeah. Interesting in how different situations could affect them.
Yeah,
For example,
I like that. Well done. You're giving a point, you're giving an example. I want to see that in your assignments. Okay, keep going.
So, does a family want a pet? So you would ask the children, where would a pet be?
Mm-hmm.
I would. What pet would you like? We want a dog, but what kind of dog do you want?
What does that do to children?
It gives them a voice.
Okay, and how does that help in their development?
Well, it makes them feel valued, yeah, part of
Sense
the
of
family.
belonging.
Sense of belonging, yes,
Gives
values,
them ownership.
ownership,
It's not just a dog that's in the house, they chose that dog,
Yeah.
that dog's theirs.
yeah.
It's their responsibility.
Yeah.
There are responsibilities to take. You get the dog. You need to be able to do this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you prepared to do it?
How many take their children when you're buying a new car and you take them along for a test drive?
Oh,
So-
we take it.
Yeah?
But I did take this one. I'm not driving.
Yeah, although eventually you make the
I
decision.
made the decision. Yeah.
But it's helping children's development of a sense of belonging, a voice, right? And also just helping them in decision making. Yeah? And then there are certain, of course, families where children are there to be seen, not to be heard. All right? It depends. Are there such families? Are there such families where children are heard, not seen?
Yeah.
Oh, seen, not heard. The other way around. Yeah. What does that?
I think that goes back to culture.
Yeah.
It's very cultural thing. As growing up, we weren't given any choice. It was like, we're having friends around, go
I
to your
think
room.
it's more of a like a time thing. Like
Generational.
Generational, yeah. Like back in history, children that was how they were viewed, weren't they? But nowadays they've got more of a presence and they're valued more.
I remember crying as a child, and my mum said, if you carry on crying, I'll give you something to cry for. And I
Yeah,
said,
I've been told that too.
if you didn't slap my legs, I wouldn't have cried.
Okay.
You know.
So it's differences in culture.
Well, for a start, you're not allowed, it's illegal to physically chastise your child.
Is it? Is
No,
it
it's
not?
It is.
As long as it's not hurting the child.
Anything.
Yeah. You can pick your child as long as it's not harming the child.
And
Oh, I thought it was
that's
illegal. I thought that was only in was it Wales? Scotland, is it?
Yeah, you can't hit a child in Scotland.
how about in England?
England, yes, as long as you don't leave a mark and it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
What's hitting a child supposed to achieve? Does it help hitting a child?
It depends on the situation that you're in.
Okay, what situation is it appropriate?
Well, if it's something, say, that you've got your oven on, and you tell them don't go near it, and they're old enough to understand not to go near it, yet they think they're still clever enough to do something that could severely harm them,
Yeah.
then, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't slap her hands away or she's getting burnt and she's in hospital, I'd rather slap her hands away than...
There are certain theories who believe that actually let them be taught by nature.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bit of this letting them be taught where you know they're only going to get hurt a little bit and severely hurting themselves where they're going to end up in hospital.
Because if you end up in hospital, you're then under suspicion.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't really win.
Leave them.
Whereas if you're slapping them, it's alright.
It's not child abuse, is it?
Not yet, anyway.
It's just teaching children responsibility and that
try and get away with
every action has consequences.
social services,
Yeah.
If you intervene before the child has been burned, they'll never learn that burning burns. How do they learn? Unless they touch it and get burnt, how do they learn? You're depriving the child of an opportunity to learn.
Put your hand in the
Just
fire.
playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I do understand
But there
this, but there are instincts.
There are some things you don't need to feel. You don't need to feel burning to know that you shouldn't let yourself get burned.
You could put your hand near it and feel it be warmer.
You still don't need to put your hand in fire to know that you're going to burn and do severe damage.
Exactly.
You don't need to do that.
You need to do that. Were you not burnt in your life as a child?
No.
Were you not? And you need to go back to childhood. Just to get burnt. Yeah, and learn that it burns. Have you never been burnt at all?
Not like on the eye or your eye maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're depriving your child of that opportunity to do
But
that.
it hurts.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, when they're an adult, they can burn their hand against.
Maybe it's too late.
Isn't that where when you go out at hot to a child, like role modelling it to a child, rather do that than let them burn themselves.
Let them-
You'd never forgive
I don't think I'm going to win this one.
No.
Okay, right. In the interest of progress, let's just move on. Yeah. Anyway.
Again, it depends on the age of the child as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 35, yeah.
35. Not too late. 35 is too late. Anyway. Yeah, they're 35. Oh, MG.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay. Where were we? Family affairs, right? Children in relation to the law, right? The law sees them in different light. The law is interested in what is legal, right? When it comes to children and childhood, and what's not. That's where you have this definition of anyone below the age of 18, which is flawed. Safeguarding children is another issue. It's not just a political issue, but there are political aspects of safeguarding. You see the government involved a lot in safeguarding. There are so many. You have your safeguarding vulnerable. Is it children and vulnerable adults, or vulnerable adults and children act, right? And then you have a range of other legislation, almost any legislation, if not all legislation to do with children. We have aspects that relate back to safeguarding. Because, again, of the welfare, the Paramount Principle. Right? And then you have issues to do with children in education and care. Right? Government also has a hand in it. It's involved. They have a range of legislation that they've put in place in relation to children in education, in relation to children in care, right? Because, again, children are vulnerable. And then you also have adoption laws and then children's rights and obligations.
Children's obligations to what?
Obligations towards others, right? When you're playing with other children, you cannot.
Their expectation.
Yeah, your freedom is not freedom to hurt others. Yeah, so they have obligations to others as well. Okay, so they have rights, because every right comes with its obligations. All right. Okay. Now let's look at the political context of childhood. All right. Or political issues. It's political issues in context. So political issues to do with children in care, right? What does the government expect people working with children in care to do?
Keep them safe.
Keep them safe. How? Why is that different from children in education?
They would be more vulnerable.
Okay. Why?
Witnessed or seen a bit more delicate.
Yeah. Why?
The situations will be different.
Different circumstances. All right. And then you have children in education. Again, the government has a range of regulations and statutory frameworks and guidance to do with children in education. Why is education such a special context?
To help those who are struggling, help them all understand what's being taught towards their individual needs.
Okay.
Consistency on a national basis.
Excellent. Consistency. Yeah. Why else is the government involved? Or why else does the government see the need to be involved?
Because every child is educated.
Every child?
Is educated.
Okay. Yeah.
Make sure all children get some form of education.
Yes. And what is it that makes an education context? Sorry, behind it. What is it that makes the education context special? Why is it different from street
Because
shops?
there's rules, there's boundaries, there's what's acceptable to help them learn, so that there's no distractions for those who can't learn.
There've got to be standards, right? Standards for their learning and standards for their welfare. Children in the healthcare system. Hospitals, etc. What are the expectations?
To improve their health.
Yes. So it's got to do with their health. And which outcome, which ECM outcome does health related? Be health. Yes. Well done. And then children in the youth justice system. This is another special context, because you also have children, i.e. those aged below 18. And what did we say was the age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales? Do you remember? 10, yes. So you can have children within this youth justice system who are very young, depending on what they've done. Okay? What makes the youth justice system special, and why should government pay particular attention to it?
To help these children come back to children, because whatever they've done, there must have been an underlying problem first
Yes.
to solve whatever problem,
Yeah.
if it can be solved.
But most of the time, when children are involved within the youth justice system, it's a sign that things have gone wrong somewhere in these children's lives. And it's an attempt to rehabilitate them. And also when they are in the youth justice system, they are likely to meet others who have committed crimes. You don't want them to normalize crime. Because if you meet like-minded,
Safeguarding as well.
yeah, and you also have your safeguarding issues as well. There was a documentary on G4S. Do you know G4S? No. Yeah, it's a security company.
Yeah.
And
Are they the ones that take the prisoners to and from courthouse? Am I
yeah,
confused?
they're also involved with children in the youth justice system. They were ill-treating them. They were actually video recorded. I think the videos can be found on YouTube. There's a documentary on it. It was terrible. You know, when people don't understand that when a child commits a crime, it's not because they're evil, it's because something evil has happened to them. It's not them to blame, right? Children committing a crime is a sign that society has failed. We have failed with these children. Whatever we did was not effective for these children. So some people do not understand that, and they want to take it out on these children. And this is what was happening with some of the people who were charged to take care of our children. I mean ours, community, right? Children who were in the YJS. It was terrible. So the reason why the government has interest in this is because they want to prevent that from happening. We're not saying it's going to stop 100%, but at least if you put measures in place, it mitigates, it neutralizes the adverse effect being in the youth justice system has on children. Okay, now sometimes we're caught between, is it a rock in the hard place or a hard place in the rock? Rock in the hard place. Okay, so that's the juxtaposition. According to Winers, Harrison, and is it Buckman, 2004, page 89. Now this reference is actually today's lesson folder. I've put a lot of resources on Moodle already. A good number of them are journals, and this one is there for you to read further. There's a tension between welfare and self-determination, and needs and interests exists. Okay. On the one hand, you're saying, okay, we want to make sure that children's welfare is looked after, and therefore we do not want to leave them alone. On the other, we're saying, oh, actually, children must self-determine. They must have choice in their lives. They must have some sense of autonomy. Now the two seem to contradict. At what point do you leave children to make their own choices, and in what context is it not appropriate to leave children alone? Those decisions sometimes are difficult. And then there's also a difference between what a child needs and what a child is interested in. Sometimes there's a contradiction or there's tension between the interests of the child and the needs of that child. Sometimes when you're working with children, you can see that what this child is interested in is at odds with what is in their best interest, i.e. in their needs, okay? You're thinking of, okay, say a child wants to go out late because they want to be watching a movie, so on and so forth, and you know this child is very young and that can actually expose this child to danger, right? So if this child has expressed an interest in something and that interest is contradicting their need for safety, and sometimes when that happens, you do not know how to convince the child that, no, actually, I'm acting in your best interest. Sometimes children may think, oh, actually you are just being fussy about nothing. But these tensions exist, the tension between needs and interests, and the tension between welfare and self-determination, okay? When do you decide for a child, and when do you let the child decide for themselves? All right. Okay. Have you seen this girl before?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Very passionate.
Passionate, yeah?
They were saying she's missed out on so much of her education by trying
Yeah,
to
I was just
educate
gonna say
others.
Yes, missing out on education. Is she redefining what it means to be a child, do you think? Is she not? Why?
She's not being a child, is she? She's not doing normal things as what a child would do. She's taking on what should be adult responsibilities.
An adult who have actually advanced in adulthood. Yeah.
Who have been through childhood and done everything needed to do through this. She's taking on responsibilities that she shouldn't have to be taking on.
Who says he shouldn't do this, he should do that?
It's a bit of responsibility, isn't it, really? To be doing stuff like that, to
Addressing the United
boycotting
Nations.
school and things like that. It's not really what a child should be doing.
Well, actually, policies and procedures say she shouldn't be doing it because she should be in school.
In England and Wales, the government may take issue, yeah, because she's of a compulsory education.
The parent would have got fined.
Yeah.
Well, she wouldn't have to be educated at school if she was homeschooled. She could be schooled in anything, couldn't she?
Well, yeah.
As long as she
So by allowing this child, she's still a child in the context of the UNCRC. The reason why I'm citing the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is because she is not English. So our laws do not apply to a country. But in the context of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, she's still a child.
I think she is redefining childhood. She's saying children can make a difference. So everybody now knows.
Children can make a difference, and people are listening to her. So she's not just backing the
Whether
trend.
you agree with her, whether you think it's right or wrong, she should be doing or not doing it, the issues that she's bringing up matter, don't they?
Yeah, they are relevant.
What she's doing, yeah, is relevant, yeah. She has had an influence on many children as well. She's many children's role model. Remember, is it last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks, I can't remember. Children across the world boycotted school to protest against, is it global warming? Was it a good or bad thing?
It's a bad thing because I'm school.
It's,
Yeah, but
right.
school's not the be all and end all when they're experiencing life, things like that. And
No, but in our policies and procedures and our laws, it is.
yeah, but
I agree with what she's doing. I think, yeah, you're right, she shouldn't make any difference. I'm not listening to anything else. But without legislation, it should be explored.
Is it like you said before, though, where you said the mum and dad are politicians, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is it not just a political platform where they're manipulating other people through the use of their child, who may not actually agree with what she's saying, but because mummy and daddy say it, that's a good way to get it across to younger generations, which then gets that political platform more.
Are we saying she is incapable of doing that herself? Are we saying she's incapable? Is that
She's got a major influence at home, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's got an easier platform to get onto. If it is genuinely her opinion,
yeah?
it's an easier platform than most other children would have.
Yeah.
I doubt anyone from like where I work would have the ability, not the ability, but like
The
the
knowledge.
access to be able to get onto that platform that she's got herself to put this view across.
Okay. But I'm not going to say whether I agree or not, but that's a good point. Okay. Because I'm supposed to be neutral in this
You
answer.
definitely disagree.
No, I can see the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But going back to what Colleen said, education is not everything, right? Who knows what she's going through is an education? How do you define education? Right? She's crossed the Atlantic by sea.
Yeah, but she might have done, but the other children who are following her half and will just think, yes, it's a day off school.
Yeah.
I know my daughter would. She would just turn around and go, is it a day off school? Well, yeah, it'd go down then. That's the first thing that she'd ask. So I'm not saying all of them, but you probably find the vast majority of the children who are following don't actually have a clue what it is that she is trying to achieve, and it's the fact of it's a day off school. Like YouTubers, when you see them all the time doing all different things, and you get the children following them, they think it's right.
Yeah.
They think that that's the way to live. My daughter's dad does things all over the internet, and she thinks that that's acceptable to do when she's older, and it's not. Because she just thinks, oh, I don't need to learn in school because I can work YouTube. Well, it doesn't work like that.
So if she does not do what she is doing, who is going to do it?
Well, she can, but there needs to be limitations, doesn't there? There needs to be something put in place,
Yeah.
like Kim was saying, so that other children have a general understanding, but are you down for it, or are you just having
Doing it for a day off, because you'll find most of them are doing it for a day off.
Yeah.
She actually said at the United Nations, I should be in school. But
I think it is a good thing. I think it is like Hannah was saying, it is good, it's getting it out there. The adults aren't bothered because it is their generation that are going to suffer.
Maybe it's the fact that she is a child, that's why everybody is sitting up and noticing.
Yeah.
Like, just being somebody you know, a bit older, it's just being another person cracking on about another problem. Whereas it seems to actually that base level, everyone's listening.
okay, so she is being effective
I think so.
in that sense.
Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
probably what parents wanted. Yeah, what you were saying.
Are you of the idea that probably when she grows up she may regret what she's doing?
Well, where does she go from here?
Where does she go
World
from here?
domination.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll go to Oxford and Cambridge.
I don't think she'll regret it.
She'll still be educated though, won't she? So even though she's taking time off, if her family are politicians, she'll be homeschooled or something like that
She
as
is,
well.
yeah.
So, but then you've got thousands of other children whose families can't homeschool them, so they're, even though it's a good thing in one way, those children are missing out just for a day off school and not getting anything back, whereas she's got it all because of the upbringing that she's had. Not every child will have that upbringing.
Yeah. And then there's another aspect of it, another unfortunate aspect. Because she's been put on this global stage, right? She attracts all sorts of reactions. Donald Trump has already reacted in a very sarcastic way.
Donald
Right.
Trump, sarcastic.
I thought you were fine.
Yeah. And you have some people with really strong views against her as well. Can she handle it? Because she has exposed herself to the dark forces of the world. That's the challenge.
And social media is
Is
isn't it?
ruthless.
Yeah.
I've seen some comments which are not really good. I mean, which are not nice. And yeah, the good thing is there are people on social media who say, oh, come on, she's only a kid, be nice, right? But there are people who are really going after her. So, because when you look at, it's just like when you look at programs like X Factor. X Factor was criticized for exposing very young children. When you say very young, you're talking about 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, who, after appearing on that program, have the issues of pressure that comes with the limelight. The question is, how is he handling it? Because it's not all going to be positive, right? Positive, fine. Because what she is doing, she's trying to change the world, right? It's good for the world, but not all people are in agreement. And that's where I'm thinking, okay, where is the responsibility? Can she not be protected? Should she not be protected, or does she need protection from the limelight? Because the limelight has its positives and negatives. It's got its dangers as well when it comes to people responding, especially nowadays where you have all this to do with social media and stuff like that. People can just say, behind the keyboard, people can just be nasty.
Once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking in terms of welfare, right? But what does this tell us about childhood? To go back to the question, what does it tell us about childhood?
Not every child is the same.
Exactly.
And that child actually has got a voice if they choose to use it.
She has a voice, yeah? So that's protesting, and that's addressing the World Economic Forum, and that's arriving in New York by sea, having crossed the ocean, and that's in the United Nations recently. She's gone everywhere for a cause. She is strong, but my question is, how strong is she? Are we not testing her resilience? Imagine being.
Well, it's the parents' responsibility.
Yeah. Imagine crossing by I don't think I would do that.
She did it by using their fossil fuels, didn't she?
Yeah.
But then they put her in a plane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
To prove what? It can be done. That every normal 16-year-old can have a day or 2 weeks on a boat to go to America.
That's not fun, is it?
Not my idea of it.
Yeah. But she has, I know some of you may disagree, but she has changed people's views on what children can do.
I think she's very brave.
Very brave, yeah, self-determining, right. Now, key ideologies. We defined ideology, didn't we? Did we not?
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay. So this is coming from Robertson and Hill, 2014. Again, that journal article is in today's lessons folder. Okay. Now you have conservatism. We are going to expand on this. And then we have liberal progressivism, neoliberalism, social democratic, and critical pedagogy. Those are the main ones that have been an impact on children in childhood. We're going to talk about them in greater detail in the next slide. Right. Conservatism, sorry.
That's okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
All right. Right, conservatism. Now, being conservative means you are traditional. Conservatism believes in the free market. Government should not interfere with the free market. Prices should be determined by the market, not by the government. Do you know there are certain countries which say, oh, the price of bread shall not cost above this. Not more than £2. You charge more than £2 for your bread, we will arrest you.
It's like a chocolate here in that vending machine.
Yeah.
And
That is
for
extortion.
one bar of chocolate is like £5.
So do you think
A can is £1.5p.
a It's a special car.
Yeah, very special.
It lasts more than a bottle of water. Very kind.
Of course, water is, there's nothing in water except water. Oh, speaking of which, are you aware that you have a small room
Yeah.
downstairs where you have a microwave?
I was going to ask you about that because one of my friends started on the foundation degree and they're not doing it on Wednesday nights anymore, doing it all day on a Tuesday. And she said they've got their own room.
So where
It's
is
just for hire.
It was just a little room, so down there.
Did you go outdoors?
Did you know about that?
Yeah, someone showed us. Janet, she's showed us.
Yeah,
I'll show you when we go.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, the
microwave.
carrots are-
It's just literally a kitchen sideboard with a microwave and that.
Is it warm?
It's
Warm
got
at the
kettle.
captain?
Oh no, it's a little
You
room you
can't
can't
see
sit
it,
in.
it's just a kitchen
That's
It's literally a
sideboard.
boiled kettle or microwave for you, that's it.
You have a space though.
You can sit in that area,
Yeah.
but it's not in the room yet.
So you can actually bring food that needs reheating. So do not recommend reheating food, but yeah, you can bring
I'm not subject to that.
Yeah. I mean,
Not really one, but
with this lifestyle of being in work from 7 a.m. and then you come straight here, microwave will be handy. Okay. And the chocolate as well, you can.
Need the chocolate.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Back to the slide. Welcome. So you have private ownership. All right. Oh, did you hear what Labour said? Labour Party
Yeah, but.
about private schools.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I hope it doesn't happen. Well, it can't possibly happen. The state schools are overcrowded anyway.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with all these children?
St Ambrose used to be a private school.
Oh, but no, it is still private prep. They said
Like
if you do
everything
it for a
else.
year,
Ah.
then it'll all go, so it's free. And they've not changed it, they didn't get the funding, so
Yeah.
it's still private.
I know like the high school used to be private, didn't it?
Yeah, my son went there, it's always been free.
They can't possibly do it because where they put all the children.
That's the thing, yeah. Besides,
You can
But
see
all
the
of their
kids,
children anyway, all the politicians' children go to private schools.
not all of them.
Well, not all of them,
most
most
yeah.
of them.
They can afford, yeah. I don't know where they're coming from, to be honest with you. Of all the things that are important in life, that is not one. Yeah. But anyway, they're not in power, are they? So they can't effect that change. Right, so you have private ownership of enterprise. Conservatism is for private ownership. You want to reward effort, right? People who work hard should be rewarded. You're encouraged to have private things and possessions. But it's opposed to change and innovation at the core. We're not talking about light conservative light, we're talking about proper conservatism. It's against change. It's all about tradition. This is what we've always done. This is how things should be done. That's conservatism. It's got its impact on children and childhood. To learn more about the impact of conservatism on children and childhood, read Robertson and Hill 2014. Okay, they discuss how conservatism addresses inequalities between children. Right. Okay, liberal progressivism. Now, this is about tolerance. They talk about equality a lot, mutual respect of citizens. So whatever a person chooses to be or to become, that ought to be respected. Okay, it's more tolerant. Also believes in multiculturalism and believe that we are stronger when you have people from different backgrounds. And there's also a sense of empathy. You put yourself in the other's shoe and you want to help them, support them. That's collectivism. The last point on liberal progressivism is treating people with dignity, okay, regardless of whether or not you believe in their beliefs, you have the same beliefs as theirs, regardless of whether or not you view the world the same way they do. That doesn't matter. Everyone should be treated with dignity.
That's
So-
basically the British and the values.
So it's
British values.
so it's liberal then.
Yeah, that's what we're teaching our children.
Exactly. So that's what it means to be British. So that's liberal progressivism. Okay. And then you have Marxist. In other texts, is also known as Marxism is also known as socialism, right? Or Marxist ideology, or socialist ideology. Now, the Marxists believe that capitalism is a bad thing. It's creating this huge gap between people who have and who have not. And the imbalance is just terrible. Marxists believe that capitalism is there because people are greedy and it's not good for society. Okay? Rather, they would have collective or government ownership of means of production. Now, the key means of production, if you did economics, are what? Labor, capital, what else? Means of production, land, labor, land, capital, and what? Organization. All right. So where conservatism is all about private enterprise, Marxism is saying all these companies must be owned by the government, right? They belong to everyone, and whatever these companies earn should be distributed almost equally to everyone. So you do not have people who have too much and those who have too little. Everyone has the same. Can you imagine? All drive same cars. Not saying in the same in the sense of brand, but you know, same price cars, and you all have the same life. Wouldn't life be boring? You wouldn't be motivated to work hard, would you?
That's what I was going to say. Where would you be your work ethic?
If you sit at home, you still get the same as
Yeah.
the other guy is getting, even though they are going to work every time. Okay. Therefore, fighting widespread discrimination, that's another thing, right? Any form of discrimination, Marxists are saying no, all people are equal. And then they're also promoting socialist education, education which promotes that whatever you have belongs to the community. Okay. Imagine your car, just come and drive it. It's ours. Right. They have their good positives and negatives, although it's difficult to see many positives there. Right. Then you have neoliberalism. Okay. This is more to do with competitive individualism. You have to compete to get to the top. Imagine education where children are told to compete to get to the top. And they're saying you get what you get because you deserve it. If you have a lot of money, you deserve it. Congratulations. If you don't, you deserve it. That's what they mean by meritocracy. You have what you have on merit. You don't have what you don't have because you do not deserve it. Right? So that's neoliberalism. It's got its positives, it's got its negatives. Social democratic is more about reforms. Let's reform this, let's reform that, because the current state of affairs is imperfect. So let's strive for perfection and make things better. Okay? They believe in a bit of income redistribution. Those who have a lot should contribute towards supporting those who don't have. Okay? That can be done through taxes, for example. Yeah? Use of positive discrimination policies. What does positive discrimination mean? So discrimination is discrimination. What is positive discrimination? Have you heard of it? No. Right, but have you heard of, when you're applying for a job and
and they ask you, okay.
yeah, and if you say you have a disability, you will be shortlisted.
Accommodate.
Yeah, you're shortlisted, you're given that chance. It's positive. That is not extended to everyone else, right? But it depends on the criteria. Sometimes they'll say, oh, we want to shortlist such a number of people from this background, such a number of people from this background.
Admissions policy.
School admissions policy.
One of the top ones is SEN or look after care.
So that's considered yes. Yeah. So that's considered positive. It's discrimination, but it's for a positive purpose. Okay. That's what they say. Is it really positive? I'll leave you to debate that. Right. Critical pedagogy. What's your understanding of the word pedagogy?
How you teach.
Mm-hmm. Teaching and learning. Yeah, but how you teach, you're right, Danielle. Right. Calls for the development of a critique of the way capitalist society works. So it's all about promoting, critiquing imperfect ways of doing things, right? So you're promoting a critical mind among the children you're teaching. It exposes all sorts of discrimination, in particular racism, sexism, homophobia, and discrimination against the disabled and against the poor. So it's all about criticizing those tendencies to do that, okay? So that's critical pedagogy. Obviously, like any ideology, it's got its positives and its limitations. I'll leave you to determine what the positives are and what the limitations are. Okay, I think we can do one more slide. Kind of rushing because our 30 minutes are stolen. How is that in the pit? Right. Are we okay to move on?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Right. So policy issues affecting childhood, right? You have health policy issues, you have education policy issues, and you have care policy issues. Okay, I'm not saying you're right about everything. You will have to select from what you're learning, right? Choose what you think is relevant to your essay. Okay. Right. I think it's a good place to.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We meet again 6:30.